There are places in this world where safety is something you can buy. Or at least, that is the illusion. Olmos Park, Texas, is one of those places. It is a sanctuary of old money and high fences. A small, independent enclave entirely surrounded by San Antonio. Here, the crime rate is negligible. The neighbors are doctors, lawyers, architects. The silence of the streets is usually broken only by the sound of landscaping crews or the engine of a luxury SUV pulling into a long driveway. It is the last place you would expect to find a woman running for her life into the darkness of the woods. Suzanne Simpson was a fixture of this community, a mother of 4, a successful real estate agent who sold the very dream of safety she lived in. She was wealthy, she was beautiful, and to the outside world, her life was enviable. But wealth is often just a higher wall to hide behind. Months before the world knew her name, Suzanne sat across from her personal banker. It should have been a routine financial meeting. But in the middle of discussing assets and accounts, Suzanne leaned in. Her voice dropped. She wasn't speaking about money anymore. She said, simply, "If I go missing, look for me in a lake." At the time, it sounded like hyperbole. The kind of dark joke born from a tired marriage. But Suzanne wasn't joking. She was predicting her own erasure. On October 6, 2024, Suzanne Simpson attended a party at an exclusive private club. She was wearing a black dress. She looked, by all accounts, perfect. Hours later, she would vanish. There is no body, there is no weapon. There is only a digital trail of breadcrumbs, a terrified 5-year-old witness, and a husband who, the very next morning, went to Home Depot to buy cement and bleach. Tonight, we are not just looking for Suzanne. We are dismantling the silence that swallowed her. To understand how Suzanne Simpson disappeared, you first have to understand the pressure of the world she lived in. In high-net-worth communities, domestic abuse doesn't look like it does in the movies. It is quieter, isolated. It is often wrapped in the guise of protection. Brad Simpson, her husband, was a man of status. But behind the closed doors of their estate, a different dynamic was playing out. It wasn't just about arguments. It was about ownership. Control begins slowly. It begins with the phone. According to family members, Brad had a fixation on Suzanne's digital life. He tracked her location. He checked her messages. If they thought the phone was the first thing to go confiscated, hidden, or disconnected, it is a modern leash. By taking her phone, he wasn't just taking a device. He was taking her voice. He was cutting her lifeline to the world outside their walls. In August of 2023, the facade cracked. A physical altercation occurred. Police were involved. But like so many victims in tight-knit, affluent circles, Suzanne did not or could not leave. Why? Psychologists call it the invisible cage. When you have children, assets, a reputation, and a partner who controls the finances, the door can be wide open, and you still cannot walk through it. By October 2024, the tension in the Simpson household had shifted from chronic to acute. There was talk of separation. And in the timeline of domestic homicide, the moment a victim decides to leave is not the beginning of freedom. It is the beginning of the most dangerous 72 hours of their life. On the evening of October 6th, the couple went to the Argyle, a private club in Alamo Heights. To the other guests, nothing seemed amiss. But the clock was already ticking. At 9:15 p.m., Suzanne used her phone to call a friend. 1 minute later, at 9:16 p.m., that call ended. And at that exact moment, something strange happened to her device. It didn't just die. It didn't just run out of battery. The service was suspended. This was not a technical glitch. This was a switch being flipped. Someone wanted Suzanne Simpson to go dark. The most chilling witnesses in crime stories are often the ones who don't realize what they are seeing until it is too late. Later that night, a neighbor in Olmos Park looked out their window. Across the street, at the Simpson residence, the lights were on. And outside, a struggle was spilling into the yard. The neighbor saw two figures. One was a male, unmistakably Brad. The other was Suzanne. The testimony is fragmented, but the details are haunting. The neighbor described seeing Brad grabbing Suzanne. She was trying to pull away. This wasn't a conversation. It was a physical restraint. Then, the neighbor saw something else. Brad didn't drag her back into the house. He didn't pull her toward the safety of the indoors. He pulled her toward the woods. The darkness of the trees swallowed them both. For a moment, there was silence. And then, the sound that would haunt the investigation for months to come. 2 screams, maybe 3. Then, nothing but an hour later, the neighbor saw Brad's truck, a black GMC pickup, leave the driveway. Suzanne was not in the passenger seat. Suzanne was never seen alive again. But there was another witness that night, one much closer to the violence. Inside the house, the couple's 5-year-old daughter was awake. Children see everything. They may not have the vocabulary to explain it, but they have the instinct to record it. Days later, she would tell a school counselor a sentence that no child should ever have to form. Daddy pushed Mommy against the wall, and Daddy turned off Mommy's phone. She also mentioned a bruise on Mommy's elbow. It was a detail only someone inside the room could know. The violence had happened. The screams had faded. But for Brad Simpson, the night was not over. The sun was about to rise on October 7th. And with the daylight came the cold, calculated work of the aftermath. If the night of October 6th was defined by passion and rage, the day of October 7th was defined by a chilling, mechanical precision. This is where the story shifts from domestic tragedy to forensic thriller. Because Brad Simpson made a mistake. He assumed that if he was careful, he wouldn't be seen. He forgot that in 2024, we are always being watched. 9:12 a.m., Brad's truck pulls into a Whataburger parking lot. In the bed of the pickup, cameras catch a shape. It is large. It is wrapped in a blue tarp. It is the size and shape of a human body. He isn't ease waiting. Or perhaps he is thinking, 9:53 a.m. He arrives at Home Depot. Now, ask yourself, if your wife had just vanished, if the mother of your children was missing, what would you be buying? Flyers. Tape to put up posters. Brad Simpson bought 3 things. Concreti, heavy-duty trash bags, and Clorox bleach. Heat paging kid attendant. He even asked for directions to the nearest dump. It was brazen, it was almost arrogant. It was the behavior of a man who believed his status rendered him invisible. For nearly an hour, his phone goes dark, lockdown mode. When the truck reappears on surveillance cameras at 11:15 a.m. The bed of the pickup is different. The trash bags are gone. The blue tarp is gone. And Brad has changed his shoes. He returns to his life. He picks up his child from school. And then, one final stop, a car wash. But this wasn't a standard wash. Surveillance footage shows him focusing on specific areas. Scrubbing the bed of the truck. Cleaning the interior. He wasn't washing away dirt. He was washing away DNA. At this point, Suzanne had been missing for less than 24 hours. Brad hadn't called the police. He hadn't called her family. He had simply gone to work, erasing her. When police finally entered the Simpson home, they found a house that was trying to keep a secret. But secrets leave scars. They found the damage to the wall consistent with the child's story. They found the empty space where Suzanne should have been. But they found something else, too. In a burn pit on a family property in Bandera, investigators sifted through ash and debris. They recovered tiny, charred fragments of metal and glass. A laptop, 3 cell phones. Destroyed. Burned, and amongst the ashes, a piece of paper that had survived the flames. A note written by Brad. It read like her last will and testament. It apologized for the physical altercation. It was a confession to the violence, if not the murder. Brad Simpson was arrested. When the handcuffs clicked around his wrists, the officers noted his demeanor. Most husbands, when told they're really dead, they deny, they collapse. Brad Simpson stood still. The police report described him as unemotional, not surprised. He didn't ask where Suzanne was. He asked for his lawyer. This brings us to the most terrifying aspect of this case. The authorities are convinced Suzanne is dead. They have charged Brad with murder. They have the screams. They have the bleach. They have the cement. But they do not have Suzanne. For the prosecution, this is a nobody homicide, a legal tightrope. For the family, it is a torture without end. To grieve, you need a place to go. You need a grave. Suzanne's family has nowhere to put their flowers. In the months since that night, a new voice has risen from the silence of Olmos Park. Chandler Simpson, Suzanne's adult daughter. She broke the unspoken rule of her community. She spoke out. She posted on Instagram, publicly stating what the police were piecing together in private. My father took my mother's life. She spoke of the abuse that had been hidden for years. She spoke of the system that protects powerful men and silences fearful women. She transformed her mother from a victim on a poster into a symbol of a crisis that rots from the inside out. If I go missing, look for me in a lake. Those words echo now with a terrible clarity. Brad Simpson sits in a cell, awaiting a trial set for February 2026. He maintains his innocence. His defense will argue that without a body, there is no proof of death. They will say she simply walked away. But we know she didn't walk. We know she ran, we know she screamed. The tragedy of Suzanne Simpson is not just that she died. It is that she knew she would. She saw the cage closing around her. She felt the tightening of the control. She told us exactly where to look. And yet, we are still looking. In the quietest neighborhoods, the darkest stories are written. Suzanne's story is not over. The trial will come. The evidence will speak. But until she is found, the silence in Olmos Park will never feel quite the same again. This is Quiet Crime Stories. Stay safe, stay observant, and listen to the silence.